thank you all for being here. It looks like we got a good group filling out. Might have some more people coming in the next few minutes, but just wanted to say thanks to John for reaching out to us. He wanted to make sure that the word gets out about this new stormwater permitting process that DES is offering for stormwater construction process. So we thought it would be great to have this presentation for y'all. We won't have a PDH today, but we did want to bring it to y'all for free. So looking like we have some good attendance. I will just ask that everybody make sure their mics are muted. Just good Teams etiquette. I'll be monitoring the chat. If you have questions that come along through the presentation, feel free to throw it in the chat. Don't turn your mic on, and we'll try to get those questions addressed at the end. And yeah, I think I'll just have a quick bio for John, and then we'll jump right into it because I know he has a lot of material to cover. So John Poole joined the Department of DES Environmental Services in June of 2021 as the manager of the Stormwater Permitting section. In this role, he led the permitting programs for stormwater discharges from construction activities in non-coastal counties and industrial facilities and MS4s across all of South Carolina. On April 2nd, 2025, John became the director of the Dam Safety and Stormwater Permitting Division, where he now oversees critical programs that safeguard communities and the environment across the state. Prior to his return to the department, John served as engineering manager and city engineer for the city of Aiken, local municipality and MS4 in South Carolina. He also held the position of state dam engineer for the state's dam safety program. John is a registered professional engineer and an alumnus of the University of South Carolina. He also holds a master's degree in engineering from the University of Alabama, Birmingham. So yeah, thanks again, John, and I'll kick it off to you.
Thank you, Bobby. I really do appreciate you helping me get the word out. This is really important for everyone. So what is e-permitting and why should it be important to you? Well, e-permitting, if you're looking at the screen now, this is it's SCDES's online platform for pretty much everything from applications all the way through compliance and enforcement. The things that we're going to focus on today, though, is the applications and the permitting. So you guys submitting the applications and us issuing the permits. So that's kind of the process that I want to talk about today. It's really important to know who needs to be involved with the permitting process and what their roles will be. There seems to be a lot of misunderstanding about that. It's really important that the applicant, the one that is seeking NPDES coverage for the construction stormwater discharges, that they be the one to initiate the form. And I'm going to cover more of why that's important later, but it's very important that they initiate it and they go in, review it, certify it, and submit it. Now, as a consultant, you're going to have ample opportunity to go in and edit that form. You're going to have ample opportunity to provide supporting documentation. There was a lot of thought that went into that as far as how we could get that information into e-permitting for review without having the need of the certifier, which is the applicant, to go back in and certify each time that we have a comment and you are addressing that comment. So I'm going to probably turn my camera off just to save on bandwidth. And I want y'all focusing more on what I'm presenting on the screen here. And but we're about to jump into the material right now. So now that you know a little bit of what e-permitting is, let me just show you a couple places you can go to get additional information. So right now on our stormwater construction website, we do have a banner running, and on that banner we have links. So I'll be remiss if I didn't say that beginning in April 7th, we went live for construction. So at this moment, you can submit, NOIs. You can apply for coverage in ePermitting now. It is live. May 5th, it will be mandatory that it's done this way. So that's why I really wanted to get this out, and Bobby was really good to work with me to get this information out to you all in a timely fashion. But we do have the banner running, and I know a lot of folks have questions. Right here, we do have instructions. This is a document that my team developed just to kind of provide an overview of how to get into the system, how to create an account, how to get certified. Being certified is extremely important for the applicant, not so much for the engineer, but the applicant. This is something that definitely has to happen. And if you're talking to your clients now, you want to go ahead and get them set up with an account in ePermitting and go ahead and get them certified. So they'll have to download this agreement, fill it out, and sign it, mail it back to the certifier agreement administrator, and wait for notification on their account that they've been certified on their user account before they ever start their first application. And that is so crucial that it happens in that order, that you first create an account, that you get them that you get their certifier agreement mailed in, and that you hear back from DES that they're certified on their account before they start. Because if they're not certified on their account before they start the form, what will happen is their certification does not carry through to the new form that they're creating, and they won't be able to actually submit that form. It will be a little bit of a issue to get that form submitted. If the best thing I can tell you is just start over if that occurs. Let me just keep moving on though. But yeah, so it also has some information in there about inviting others to their site in ePermitting. It's kind of important to understand that ePermitting is centric around two things mainly: your email address that you use to set up your user account, and sites. So sites in ePermitting is just basically, you can think of that as a node. That's just a place, that's a thing that data can get attached to in the ePermitting program. So if you're thinking of it like that, you know, your user account can get attached to that node, your permit application can get attached to that node, your actual permit will be attached to that node. So that's how you can kind of think of that as far as the actual logistics of the software, is that it's centric around your email that you use to set up your account, and that it's centric around sites. One other note that I will say about the emails: on their certifier agreement, the email that they put on that agreement must match the one that they used to set up their account. If it doesn't, then they won't get certified on that account because it's based off of their email. So that is one important bit. However many emails they use for business, they may need that many certifier agreements here. It's just an unfortunate fact, because they'll have different accounts for each one of those emails if they're setting up accounts on, let me put it this way: if they're setting up accounts for each one of those emails, they'll need a certifier agreement for each one if they want to apply using those. So basically, the way you can think of a certifier agreement is that's the blue ink signature for the email that was used to create that user account for the person that owns that email. So that's the way you can think of that. So I'm not going to read this document to you. I just wanted to really make it known that it's out there so folks can look at that. This would be a real good resource, I feel, for folks moving forward. And again, you can get access to that from this banner that's on the construction homepage, Stormwater Construction Activities. Another website that we put out is our frequently asked questions. So here you will see a bunch of different questions that are asked. A lot of these were asked internally as we were setting this thing up. Some of this has been information that we've got from DOT. We kind of went live with them first, so we got some feedback from them. So that helped also develop some of these Q&As, but this is out there, and it's also accessible from that banner on the construction homepage. So I just wanted to make sure that y'all knew that data or that information was available. And lastly, I'll show you one other thing. If you're at the ePermitting homepage, and there's a training module right here. Also, there's access to the certifier agreement there as well. So if you look at the training module, if you click on that, you'll see here that we do have a folder here specifically for construction stormwater. You can see that right here. And if you click in that right now, the only video that I have in there, hold on, there it goes. The only video that we have now is how to start an application and basically inviting another user to contribute to that application. But what I wanted to go through is how do you go about setting up an account? Because I know that's going to be real important. So here I just typed in SCDES. The first thing you're going to want to know is how to get to the ePermitting portal. There, you can simply search for it, but I'm just going to show you how easy it is to get there from the home page. So if you go to the SCDES website, this is just the main site. They've got this kind of scrolling banner here, and right below that is ePermitting. Before you get down to all the content, it's right there. So it's up at the top of the page. I'm going to kind of zoom out of this a little bit so you can get a better perspective. But there, again, that was that same page we were on here, but that's just how you can get there if you don't know the URL. If you can find DES's website, you can find ePermitting very easily. So once you're there, to create an account, you just simply click in this square here, and you go to create an account. What it'll do is it asks for your basic information. Again, the email is very important. It asks you to create some password or a password, a company, phone number, just basic information. Once you got that filled in, it'll allow you to hit that button for create an account, and it will send you an email with a link so that you can finish out your account creation. Basically, you'll have to select some security questions, and that's about it. There's going to be, you confirm that you have a real email, and then you just basically select up your security questions, and you're set to go. You'll have new credentials, and you can log in. So creating an account is very simple. Getting certified takes a little bit longer, so that can take, easily a week once we receive the certifier agreement. So I would say that's going to be kind of the critical component, is getting, the folks getting their account created and getting that certifier agreement into us so that they'll have the credentials they need to submit on ePermitting. All right. I'm going to move on to now kind of a live example. One thing I'm going to show you is once you get all that, you just use the button right above that to sign in, and it's going to just look like this, and you just hit the login button. If I was to hit login now, what it would do is take me into the live ePermitting production, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to move over. I got to move this toolbar out of my way real quick. I'm going to move over and show you what it looks like if I was to hit login right now. So it would bring you to your dashboard, and you can see right there, there's my dashboard. That's that tab right there. If you click on that, it won't go anywhere. It'll just refresh. Basically, what that will give you access to is all the different submittals that you're working on. And in this case, I'm working on quite a few. Most of these are for training. And before I jump into one that I'm working on, I'm going to show y'all how to actually go in and start a new form. I think this is very important. So I'll go ahead and move to that portion now. So once you log in, you'll have this over to the left side, this little, I don't know, maybe menu would be a good word for this. And you can click here, start new form. Once you start that, it's going to ask you what kind of form are you looking for. In this case, we're going to be starting a new application. And we'll give it a little bit of time here because right now we didn't narrow it down to any particular site. So it's bringing in all, 153 forms, but I'd already filtered this. I'll take this out for now. So it's got 153 forms here that's available. So you don't need to scroll through all those. We have a filter tab here. If you know the form number 2617, it'll kind of narrow it down. Now, what you'll see here is this is UAT, so that we still have some of these go live forms in here. These are no longer existing in production. What you want to go for is the packages. If you see something that's a standalone form like this that just says begin right from this menu, that's not what you want to use. You want to definitely view the package for the NOI. And this is for your client. So once they log in after they're certified, they start that new form and they go over here to this NOI view package. And this one on the top is the one that they're going to start. You can see it says NOI. This one down here on the bottom is supplemental documents. This is basically for your team to fill in. This is for the applicant to start and to submit. Now you can help edit it and fill it out for him, but he's got to start it and they have to start it and they have to submit it. So you can just sit here, hit begin, and right there it's going to ask you create a new site or existing site. So here's all my existing site. In this case, it's create a new site. And let me talk a little bit about that. Every construction project will be its own site. So if you're starting a subdivision, that's going to be its own site. If you got phase 2 in a subdivision, it's going to be its own site. It's not going to be like Woodside, and then you have multiple phases in Woodside, and all that's one site, Woodside. Each one of those phases is divvied up in sites in ePermitting. So that's one thing that's probably that needs to be explained, that each one of these that you're getting a permit on for construction will be its own site. There's other ways that they're linked together. It's each one, just keep in mind, each one of these is its own site. So in this case, we're going to do ASCE example and continue. And it'll just bring you to an overview of that NOI form. And basically all this is just a check to make sure that you're at the right form. You see that you are, you begin the form. And it's going to take a little bit of time. It's initializing, it's bringing everything in. This is a processing info. We're taking this landing page out. So what you'll probably land on to start with is just this. But either way, it doesn't really matter. For your client, at this point, they can save their progress, exit the form, and when they do that, they'll be brought back to this It's basically a submissions, but it's based off of the site that they just created. This is that provisional site that they just had their certifier agreement or their certifier status transferred to. That's why they must start it. But anyway, when you go down to authorized users, you'll see there that I am certified status approved. If I open that, you'll see that I'm approved on the site. I don't have to request it and make it, nobody at the department has to do that. I'm automatically approved as a certifier on this site because I was certified before I began the form. So that is a very key step. Now, also, if I go back to the authorized users, this is when I can start, as an owner, I can start inviting other people to be involved. So, at this point, I could invite my engineer. And, let's just say they have email design@test.com. Now, when I'm thinking about the role that I want to give my engineer, it's either going to be an editor or an administrator. The reason I'm going to give them one of those is they need to be able to contribute to forms that I start. So editor is the lowest permission level that allows for that. Now, if they have other people on their team, let's say if they're like a PM and they're going to have other people working with them that contribute. Let's say like you got one that's a permit coordinator that goes in and fills out the NOI. You got another one that's a draftsman that completes the plans and uploads those. So if you got a team like that, you're probably going to want to give them administrator status. That way they can invite their team members, because that's the big difference between administrator and editor, is that the administrator can invite other users to join the site. That's the big thing between the two. Other than that, they're basically the same. Engineers do not need to have a certifier agreement, so there's no reason to include that, and you just send that invitation. And there you can see there's a pending invitation. If that was, that would be first and last name, not just engineer. I'm doing that just for example, but that would be the engineer. Now, another person that you, or entity that you may want to invite now would be the MS4. If this is a MS4 project, they may want to be associated with your site so they can go in and review the NOI if they're using our NOI, or just to make sure that your NOI matches what was presented to them and on their NOI, and also so they can upload your approval letter. If they're going to review your project, they're going to give you an approval letter, they can upload that directly to us. It's not necessary. They could give it to you and then you upload it. But I know some MS4s may choose, they may elect to upload it themselves. That will give them an opportunity to look at your NOI and just make sure everything's, matching up before they, give the approval for it to DES. So in that case, you would just do invite user. Again, this is just MS4, and we'll just do MS4 at test.com. And again, at this point, you'll probably want to give them editor rights because they will be contributing to forms, and that is the lowest level that can contribute to forms that's created by others. So then you would just send them their invitation. You would have to know what email that they wanted you to send it to and who's their contact person. So that would be important. Again, I just put MS4 there for a placeholder. It would literally be somebody's first and last name. That would be their display name. Okay, so I think that covers pretty much how you start the form and how you invite your team to help contribute to that form. Let me move on past that a little bit into what this form actually looks like. I'm going to go back to the submissions on this site, and I want to show y'all one other thing, because what you're probably wondering is, how do I get my plans and engineering report and all that in there? So that would be done through this manage package once you're on there, and you can see like it's the supplemental documents. You just begin that. There's places to upload all that, and I'll go through that in just a minute. So at this point, we're going to move on to that particular step. Let me go back to this one, and I'll just go to acres subdivisions. So here we've got one that is a fictitious submittal. We're calling it acres subdivision. And at this point, I'm going to go in and I'm going to pretend that I'm the owner at this. Well, no, I'm going to pretend that I am the consultant at this moment. So I'm going to go in and manage the package. And what I'm going to see is that all this stuff is in drafts and nothing's been submitted, nothing's been queued yet. So, but it's been started. So I can go in and look at this draft here. I can continue that draft. And what it's going to have is it's going to have some questions for me to answer. This is how I'm going to get my supporting documentation up there. First thing it's going to ask, is my information greater than 500 megabytes? If I select yes here, and let me just put it to you like this. If you got all your documentation in a folder on your desktop and you have properties and it's over 500 megabytes, you need to contact us so we can get you an FTP site or like a OneDrive folder or something that you can upload that to. The firewall will time out before it actually makes it through that firewall scan. You'll never get your submittal done. So at this point, we're just going to select no. And then let me go back here. Yeah, this is the first page. So it's going to ask some basic information. Is the site in multiple counties? We're going to say no. Here it asks for the county. And this particular example is in Cherokee. And here it's going to give you options for, is it a full MS4 review, a partial MS4 review, or a full DES review. In this example, we're going to say it's a full DES review. It's also going to ask you if you're doing a detention waiver. If you are, you got to add that as a separate document. In this case, no, we're not doing a detention waiver. So then when we go down to the additional information, you get back to that question here. Is it greater than 500 megabytes? In this case, we're saying no. And here you got locations to upload your SWIP template report, your construction drawings, your design checklist, permanent maintenance agreement. If there was a detention waiver request, there would have been a place for it as well. Some of these are required, other ones may not be. I will say if they're not, we're going to send a comment saying we still need this. So let me just go ahead and go through how simple this is. I have some of this over here to the side. I'm just going to put in. So the first thing it's asking for is the SWIP template report. So I've got that right here. You just drag and drop. Then it's asking for the construction drawings. I've got some plans right here. I'm just going to drag and drop that, and it can be multiple. It can be multiple files per, I guess, per upload. It doesn't have to be just all plans in one. Like, let's say if you got, different documents that's part of your SWIP template, it could be multiple files. Maybe that would be helpful if you have like drainage area maps that kind of blow up the PDF when you go to scroll through it, and you're just like, it's going to make sense to submit these separately. And that SWIP template report, you could upload those files separate, and that might help. So in this example, I just have one file for each, so I'm going to just keep going that way. But I wanted to kind of put that out there. Now I've got my checklist. I'm going to put that in there. And let's see. I've got my permanent pond maintenance agreement. Let me go ahead and get that in there as well. All right. And so you could go through at this point and actually click on these, and it will, allow you to look at it. I'll just show you what that would look like. I've kind of sanitized this for this demonstration, but that's how it would go about each one of those. You could look at that before you decided to move to the next step to make sure you uploaded the correct documents. Now we're going to go into the review. Again, this is just kind of like another place where you could do that same exact thing. All these are hyperlinks, so you can download those and look at them. Hopefully you're naming everything so you know what is what when you go to upload. At this point, if you're happy with everything, as the engineer, you will certify and submit the supporting documentation. And this is just basically the same thing that you sign on the 2617 form now. You just read through that and hit submit form. And it's going to ask you if you want to view submission or return to ePermitting home. This is counterintuitive. You want to turn to ePermitting home. All right. And to me, that's actually view submission. So there it is. You can see that it says draft, but if I hit refresh, it's now staged. So what you'll see is you just staged your part. Now, at that point, you can call up your client and say, hey, I've just staged all the supplemental documents. Can you go in, review all that, and go in, review the review the NOI, certify, and submit that. So at that point, you've already had somebody go in and complete the NOI for them. You already have your supplemental information staged, so they can go in and continue this draft. Now I'm pretending I'm the owner. If you haven't called on to that yet, I'm now the owner. I'm going in. I'm seeing green check marks at all of these. Right, so that's what I'm looking for is green check marks. I got green check marks on everything except for review. Let me go down and click on review. And at that point, oh, I do not have green check marks. I do have something here, impaired water bodies. Let me go double check that. So that's what you mean by review. Now, we'll go down into the review and do it from there. I think that might help. So as they're scrolling through, they're just verifying all the information that was put into the NOI is correct, and that it is complete. It's complete and correct. That's basically what they're looking for. And here you can see that there is some information that's still needed. You see that's in the impaired water bodies. So you just click on impaired water bodies, and when you go down there, what happened is there is a blank form. Now, if there's really another monitoring station that needs to go here, this would be the time to type that in. I believe that's the case here. We're going to say that's B B-062, and you can see it's actually impaired for a lot of things. You could put that same one up there multiple times if it had construction related impairments, or for today, we're just going to do the one thing. We're going to say it's on Thickety Creek. Yes, it's on Thickety Creek. And as you start typing this in, it'll create the list, so you can just select it when it pops up. Now here's important, and this is for impaired water bodies and also for TMDLs. if you're not selecting yes here, you're not really eligible for coverage. So through the general permit, because your site discharges need to be controlled so that they're not going to further contribute, or they're going to be within the allocations of the TMDL. So that's something very important there. So if you're selecting no, you're not eligible, and we put a little warning here underneath this as well. So in that case, we fixed that one issue, and we're going back down to review, and we're going to certify and submit. Now, if as an external user at this point, you'd have to acknowledge, you'd had 4 acknowledgements here, and then it would ask you for your security question that you had set up when you set up your security questions when you were creating your account. It's going to ask you one of those, and it's going to ask for your password. As an internal user, for some reason today, it's recognizing that, and it's not requiring me to do that. So at this point, I can just submit the form. But as an external user, you're definitely going to have to do all those things. You're going to have to make those acknowledgments. You're going to have to answer that security question and put in that password. And this is for the applicant to certify and submit to. This is going to be the that's the primary permittee that's doing this. All right, at this point, they can decide whether they want to pay online or if they want to pay by mail. If they pay by mail, they'll have an opportunity to download that payment voucher. And once they've downloaded the payment voucher, they can just cut a check and mail that in using information on the payment voucher. If they choose to do pay by mail, I'm sorry, slightly different one. Pay online, it'll take them to this portal here where they can just make a credit card payment. If they're not ready to make the credit card payment at this point, they can hit cancel. And it says, are you sure? Yes. And what they can do at that point is invite somebody else to go in there to their financials, and they can make the payment on their financials. Like if they had a viewer or somebody that has, P card access, they could go in, find the site. It's right there. Open that. They'll see that it's due, and they can pay it from this location here. Pay online, right there. So many of you probably are familiar with that process, as we've been doing this for a few years now with inviting users just to make the payments, but I did want to show that's still available. All right, at this point, I'm just going to cancel. Yes. So you're not done yet though. Okay, so you're not done yet. So let's go back to the submissions here. And we're gonna go back to the acre subdivision. So if we look at this package, you'll see now that we have the supplemental document staged, and we have the NOI in stage status. Here we have a new set of buttons here, and it's submit package. At this point, you want to submit the package. And it's going to ask you this. You just hit agree and submit, and that's going to knock it over the net to us. You still got to make your payment, but at that point, it's going to show up in our inboxes. Okay. Let's move on to the next stage. So here, let's see, this is UAT internal, this one. Let me just go back to this one here, and I'll just go to the corrections site. So at this point, we're going to pretend we submitted this, we paid our fees, even though it still says fees are due. We're going to say that we've paid our fees, and we've received correction requests. So to start with, I'm just going to go back out to all, because when you first log in to your dashboard, everything that you have going on is going to show up here. And you can see right here, we've got acre subdivision, and this is the one I set up for example for corrections, but you can see that it's got action needed on it, showing up with the red action needed. You just go over and manage that package, and what you'll see is that now we've got some required action needed on both of these. So unfortunately, if you have required action that's needed on the NOI, you can go in there and view and revise that, but you have to have your client to certify and submit the NOI. Any changes that's done to that particular document must be reviewed, certified, and submitted by the permittee or the potential, the applicant for permit coverage. But what you'll see when you go in there is where the action needed. You'll see the notes and issues. So, and there's two basic categories of notes. You've got actual correction requests that are needed. You can't go any further until these are resolved. And then notes that are just like, hey, this is some helpful information. And you can see here I put delineation required if within 100 feet of disturbed area, because this is the waters of the state US issue. And I put that note there. I'm not sure it's under 100 feet, but I'm just asking for you to verify because it looks close to me. And then also we have correction requests. These must be. We actually fixed one of these earlier, which was the, well, we'll just go here. This is for the TMDL. We fixed the impaired water one before we submitted. So let's go and look at this action required. So we're going to go to that part of the form that needs the work done now. So we can see here, and you can see I've already put in there that, hey, these two are needed. So you can go to revise submission, and what happens now is it says, are you sure you want to revise and edit this form? Please note this form will not receive any further review until you've completed the submission process for the revision. So basically what happens is when we're doing our review, it basically says the same thing to us, and it locks the form so you can't go in there and change it while we're performing our review, because I don't want to be reviewing something and it changing as I'm reviewing it. And same thing goes with y'all. If you do this, it'll be locked on our end, so we can't go in and review it while you're editing. It's just kind of a control process that's set up so we're not stepping on each other's feet while we're doing this, okay? So at this point, you'll just hit okay. And and you can see here I've got a couple different correction requests. I got the one for the location. We'll do this one first. Just select on that, and it takes me here. And I'm like, yeah, of course it's the wrong one. I just took the default location when I was in here earlier. Oh, what an idiot. So let me go to Gaffney, and you can search by address if you knew the address. If you don't, you can just get close. In this case, I'm not going to go all the way in because, I want to protect the innocent here. But at this point, you just zoom into your site's location. Let's say it's here next to Freeman Gas, and you just double click and it automatically populates that for you. There's no going to a third-party website and typing it in anymore. You just find it and click on it. So at this point, I can say, hey, I done that. It's complete. I did it right. And now I still have the other one. Now I'm going to go in and look at that. And at this point, I can add a row because I'm, looking at the NOI tool, it does look like it drains to this other station. So I'm going to go RS 01028 and just select that. And I'm going to say yes again here. because you're just basically saying that you're going to have the proper controls so that the discharges are consistent with the assumptions and requirements of that particular TMDL. All right, at this point, I could add a comment. Thanks. Good catch. And hit OK. And mark that one as complete. All right, so I've done all the work. At this point, I will go and check on this one too. And I'll see that, yeah, we do have a creek on site. It does look like it. We're saying it's non-jurisdictional, but it is within 100 feet. So we could go in and say, yeah, we're going to do a delineation. Or if you're comfortable with it, you can make the note saying, no, I measured it. You know, I went out there with a wheel. We're nowhere near it. You know, it's 150 feet away. It's not 100 feet. So we're not going to have to do this delineation. So in that case, you'd be good to go. But even though you've done the corrections, the resubmission is still required. And like I said earlier, that's going to have to be done by the owner. So at this point, you know, the owner could go in and he could review and then do his certify and submit. I'm not going to make you sit through all that again, but that's how that works. You as a well, since I didn't do that, it's still in the draft. So I'm going to go ahead and say, no, we're gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna back out. I know I'm being a little wishy-washy here, but I got a purpose for this. So let me go back, exit the form. So now that we fixed the NOI, we need to fix also the required corrections for the plans. And you're like, man, this is not even out of administrative review yet. We already got required. What could it possibly be? Let's go in and look at this. And it's, oh, well, actions needed, incorrect document. Okay. So you just click on that. It takes you right to it. And you're like, oh man, I goofed and put the payment voucher in there instead of the actual permanent pond maintenance agreement. So revise that. It's going to ask you the same thing again. You're going to, you know, it's going to basically lock it on our end. So you say, okay, it's on hold anyway because I goofed and put the payment voucher in there. And so we're going to go down there and we're going to delete that because that, yeah, we don't need that payment voucher. What we really want in there is the maintenance agreement. So let's drop that maintenance agreement in there instead. Yeah, that's right. And just click on there and say, thanks, got files mixed up. And at that point, you hit OK. You can mark it as complete. And now it says the corrections are complete. The resubmission is required. So as the engineer, you can go ahead and review that, look at that, certify and submit it. Say, yeah, everything looks great. Submit that form. And then you go back to that ePermitting home just for now. And you can call up the client and say, hey, I fixed our part. I went in there and updated the NOI. So you need to go back in and again, you need to go back in and certify and submit on yours. So they'll go in, you see this one's in process, this one goes to draft, so they're going to continue that draft. And when they go into that draft, you know, they'll just go down to the I think I went in and out of this too many times already. All right, there we go. Now we're going into the review. everything looks good here in the review. So we're going to certify and submit that submit form. And again, that's where it's going to ask you to acknowledge those things. It's still reminding you that payments due, since we never did fix that. It's not going to charge you a second time. That's just, that's just a lingering thing. But at that point, you will have submitted both the corrections for the NOI and for the plans. So that's basically how the correction requests look. So I think the next thing we're going to jump into, kind of switch gears a little bit, is moving on towards the end of the project. And really, this is all we had time for. I don't think we'll get to the example of a real project that Sloan's been working on. But let's say you've got a permit out there now that you need to submit an NOT on. How do you do that? There's a couple different ways to go about doing that. First thing you'll have to do is you'll have to get access to the site. That could be a little bit tricky. Once you log in, you'll go to home, and it normally starts you at the dashboard, but you'll go up to home on this time. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to add a site, person, or organization to your user account. And when I'm saying I'm really talking about the client's going to have to do this, because they're the one that has to certify that NOT. You might be able to find it for them and invite them. And in that case, you could be doing this, but they're the one that has to initiate the NOT. But we're just going to go through the process of finding that site. So you can add that site. It's going to ask you if it's been registered with DES or if it's never been registered with DES. That's a little bit of a trick question. It's going to be, it has been registered with DES if you're looking to do a modification or NOT. So here you just click this, and here's another one that's a little bit of a trick question. At one time, we did send out verification codes to existing facilities. We did that for industrial. We're not doing that for construction. There's really no need to do that, because people were just losing the verification codes anyhow. They were all finding them like this. So you search for the site by location. And what that'll do, and unfortunately, what we're going to run into today is UAT, or the test environment, does not have the full suite of permits in it for me to select. You can see that the screen's basically blank when I do this. If I was live in production, it would look a little bit different. So just for y'all, since I care about you and I want you to know how to do this, I'm going to go in and I'm going to go to ePermitting. And here, I'm just going to log in using my personal credentials. Yep, it says the password's bad. I know what it is, though. Not now. So we're going to do the same thing that we just did. I'm going to go to home. I'm going to browse. I'm going to add a site organization. I'm going to say it has been registered. I'm going to search for a site by location. And at that point, when I bring that up, it's got a whole, everything that's in ePermitting is available to me. So where I'm going to go to is I'm going to look for it, and I know where there's one out in the middle of nowhere. So I'll just go to it. If I know the location of the exact permit, I can just go there. I think this is one. Yeah, that's the one I want. I'm going to claim that site. So once you find its location, you click on it. It this little flyout window comes, and then you can claim the site. You can request a role. Honestly, it doesn't matter what you choose here because we don't even see this for some reason. But select the one that you want because we're probably going to get that fixed where we do see what role you're wishing to have. And then the reason I want to file NOT. So it doesn't have to be some long reason, just some simple thing. And if I hit submit here, it would absolutely, I'll just do that. I'll go ahead and hit submit. And all right, a claim request record already exists for this email on the site. Oh yeah, I did this example before. I deny myself. So since I was denied, I'd have to call in and get the request that way. But basically, that will send a request to us. If you're doing that, I highly suggest the call either Brooke, Neff, Pam, and just let them know that you did that so they know to go in and accept that request. And let them also know what level you want. So if you're doing this for your client, you're going to want to be an administrator so that you can invite them. And if you're the permittee, you're still going to want to be an administrator. So most of the time you're going to want to claim this as an administrator so you can either invite others or you can have full rights to fill out the forms. Anyhow, once you've done that, you will have access. So let's go back in and we'll just go back to this. That's internal. Sorry, it's also internal. Got to find my right tab now. Got too many of these things open. This is the actual. I'm gonna close that. Okay, so here we are with the, yeah, I'll close that one too. Yeah. Yeah, I've got my test internal open, but I must have closed there we go, UAT external. All right, so at this point, I'm gonna go to my dashboard. I know we're really bumping up against the time here, but I do want to show y'all how to do this. You just go start a new form. You can ask for modify, terminate, exist. So you click here. What is interesting at this point is when you do that, it's going to show you which sites that you have access to that type of form is applicable to. It's smart enough to know that. So here, I'm just going to go ahead and select this one. And then I'm going to type in NOT and just go down and begin the, begin that form. You just fill that out, certify it, and submit it. It's a pretty simple form. I'll just show you what that looks like real quick. There's not a whole lot to these NOTs. You'll confirm that you got the right number. Yes, you'll indicate the reason why you're terminating it. Select all that apply. This question here is basically asking, do you have a SWIP preparer? It's just a roundabout way of asking that question. If you select yes, it's going to ask you for that information. And also, if you're in an MS4 area, it's going to ask you for their certification. In this case, we're going to say no. And here, we would need to upload the SWIP preparer's certification. And if we are requiring that you submit as-built, you got a place here as well. You'll just have to look at your approval letter for that information. We usually put that on the approval letter if as-built are needed. So here we'll just go ahead and just pretend that these, we'll pretend that the plans are the as-built, and we'll pretend that the maintenance agreement is the certification. Okay, that just gets us something in there. Go down to review and then sign that. There you go. Finally, it's asked. It has asked. So these are the questions that it's going to ask your client. They have to acknowledge that they are the owner of the account. They have authority to submit the data on the behalf of the facility that they're representing, and that they agree to the credentialing process that we put in place, and they've reviewed the electronic form in its entirety and validate, agree to the validity of its and accuracy of information. So at that point, they enter their password. We'll just do this one, and it's going to ask me to provide my phone number from when I was a kid. Let's see if I have that remembered correctly. Yeah, this usually trips me up a little bit. All right, nope, everything went in, and at this point, I can just go back. So hopefully that was pretty much everything. I know we're at time. That was pretty much everything I wanted to go through. That I felt was kind of important for today's discussion. And with that, I'll just open it up to questions. I don't know if we've been getting any in the chat or not, Bobby.
Yeah. So it looks like Roxanne, Sloan, maybe some other DES folks have been able to answer some questions that have popped up.
Okay, perfect.
I won't go through all of them, but if there's any new questions that people want to chat in now, let us know. And I think one of the most recent ones was a follow-up demonstration. This has been recorded. So John, if you don't mind distributing this to us, we can send it
absolutely. Bobby, we are planning to I'll definitely get you this recording somehow. Since you were on the I'll figure it out. I'll get it to you. I had to do the same thing for Paul with his recording. So there's a way to do that. I'll figure it out and get it over to you. We also plan to take certain snips of this and put it back into that training website. So if I can narrow in on a certain portion that I was discussing, I'll cut the video down to like a 2-3 minute portion and just upload it in there. And it'll be like submitting an OT or it just really depends on the quality of the video when I'm going through and editing it. I might just redo it. Like I'm saying, it's only going to take a few moments. Yes, Roxanne, you got your hand up?
There is one question in the chat that I wasn't able to answer. It's specifically the question, is the owner being called the AG, Attorney General certification for this application, or is that for the state reporting back to the EPA?
I'm not even really sure what that means. The owner of the I guess owner, operator, applicant, permittee, all those I've been using kind of interchangeably. There really could be different things, like the owner could be a landowner that's different from the permittee. I'm talking about like the owner of the permit, the owner of the the one that's got control over this site. That's really what I was talking about if I said the owner at any time. Hopefully that helps. Okay. Any other questions?
It just popped up. It says, how does this work within an MS4?
Yes, that's a good question. So one of the things you have to do is you're going to have to talk to the MS4 to see what role or how involved they want to be with ePermitting. I mean, it can be like all the way to they want you to invite them. They're going to use the NOI that's in our website to look at what you're submitting to us, and they're going to upload their approval directly. I think that would probably be like the most involved MS4. All the way to the MS4 is going to be like, look, I just want you to apply on the paper form that I gave to you last week. We're going to review it like we always have, and when we're done, I'm going to give you an approval letter, and you can take it to DES and get your coverage. So it's flexible enough for either one of those. You really do need to talk to the MS4 to see how they want to proceed with it. I've had feedback from different ones, and a lot of people are leaning more towards the first, where they want to be the ones that are uploading their approval letter. But other ones really don't want anything to do with it. They just want to give you their approval and let you bring it to us, and we're flexible either way.
So to clarify on that, are you saying we have to submit an ePermitting, like NOI, regardless of whether it's an MS4 or not? Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So,
okay.
so you apply with MS4, right? Let's say you apply with Lexington County. You know, you go through their process, you get their approval. And I'm just picking on them. I'm not sure how they're going to do it. I'm just picking on Lexington County. So you get their approval. You still come to us for MPDS coverage. They're not capable of issuing that. So like always, you had to send a paper NOI to us in the past, even after you got their approval. Now we require that NOI through ePermitting. So you just fill out the NOI, and you upload the required documentation. I guess maybe would be a good time to go back to one of these sites here if I can get to it quickly.
And just to tag on, so like, for example, Florence County, they usually want us to give them the $125 NPDS fee, and they submit everything to DES on our behalf.
They will not be able to do that because the system requires,
okay.
the system requires that the permittee be the one that initiates the form.
Understood.
And so if Florence County, if that's the way they're operating, they really cannot do that anymore because they cannot initiate the form for you.
So that is a change here. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're probably going to be one of the ones that want you to start this and invite them so that they can upload the documentation. I can just tell that's probably the way they're going to want to go. But if you go in here to the supplemental documents, we'll just look at this real quick. Just in light of MS4 submittals. Hopefully it'll let me in pretty quickly. It's giving me the spiral death here.
And just to jump in on the same wavelength, if you can touch on maybe like a less than 1 acre form, that's not going to be required through this, regardless of MS4 or not.
Yeah, so those are a little bit tricky too. We do have less than 1 acre less than 1 acre forms in here. That is a form that's available in ePermitting now. So you can go in and submit that way. If you need that, typically you don't necessarily need that unless DOT or some local government's requiring that you have something from us. Mm-hmm. And in that case, you can just apply for it. This, right in the ePermitting. There's going to be a point in there where it's going to ask for MS4 approval. So that's where you might have to, I don't know, just sit there and spin. Okay, let's try that again. It just completely spent for no reason. I think my internet might be, or something's going wrong here with this. But what I wanted to show you with that supplemental documents and information is there was a question in there asking if it was an MS4 or not. And if you click that it's in the MS4, it's going to ask you for different documentations. It's not going to ask you for the plans. It's not going to ask you for all that other stuff. It's just going to ask you for their approval. I think if you got a detention waiver, it's going to ask for that. And that's basically it. it's a much simplified form. I wish it would open so I could show you that, but it's not allowing me. I'm glad it didn't act like this earlier. But that's sometimes after 5 they start doing maintenance on the system, so that might be what's happening behind the scenes here. But but the but yeah, so going back to where I was saying earlier in the presentation, yeah, it's not even letting me into the form. They must be doing some sort of maintenance. What will happen is you just send them that invitation and they can go in and contribute to that form as they need to.
Okay. Well, I think that's it for the chat. If anybody wants to follow up, I know Roxanne dropped her email, but y'all can find their emails easily online. But yeah, I think, John, thank you so much for doing this, and everybody else at DES on the call, thank you for sharing this information.
Thank you, Bobby. I really appreciate you organizing it and bringing everybody together. I think this was great.
Happy to do it. All right. Thanks for staying late, y'all. Have a good rest of your night.